The messages keep coming, and the people watching Daystar's programming closely are now identifying what they describe as a pattern. A series of subtle, pointed, carefully worded communications from inside the network that appear to be directed at one specific person. Jonathan Lamb, the firstborn son of Marcus and Joni, the man who was not called to his mother's bedside, who found out she was gone from a lawyer, who sat in the front row at the memorial hidden from cameras, who watched the pulpit used to address him without ever speaking his name. He was not given a microphone at the service. He was not given a seat beside his sisters. And now, weeks later, the Christian world is asking whether he is being subliminally targeted from the very platform his parents built. In this video, every message, every broadcast, every pointed communication that the Daystar community is now reading as a subtle but unmistakable signal directed straight at Jonathan Lamb. Let's start with what happened during the memorial service itself. Because the presiding pastor's eulogy, the one that caused Jonathan's invited friends to walk out, was only the most visible example of what has become a recurring pattern. The pastor used the pulpit to address critics of Joni Lamb and Daystar without naming them specifically. He spoke about the dangers of criticizing anointed leaders. He said, "To criticize is the smallest size, especially when somebody's touching the world." He added that the Lord told him to preach this at Joni's funeral. The Lord told him to preach this at Joni's funeral, in a room where Jonathan Lamb, the man who had publicly challenged the Daystar administration, who had filed legal complaints, who had spoken openly about what happened to his daughter, was sitting in the front row, hidden from cameras. Nobody needed to be named. Jonathan was in the room, and the message found him anyway. And then came the post-memorial broadcasts, because after the service ended, after the world watched and the livestream comments flooded in, Daystar programming continued, and the community watching closely started to notice something. Doug Weiss appeared in a pre-recorded segment on the network. He spoke about restoration, about moving forward, about the importance of not holding onto the past, about how God calls people to release what they cannot control. Release what you cannot control, move forward, let go of the past. The community is now reading those phrases, spoken from the same platform that excluded Jonathan at the memorial, as something more than generic faith content. They are reading them as a message, a specific, directed, carefully calibrated message to a specific man, not spoken directly, not addressing him by name, but pointed at him across the airwaves of a network that reaches 7 billion viewers. That is the subliminal targeting the community is describing, not a conspiracy theory, a pattern observed, documented, and now being discussed openly by longtime Daystar viewers who know the difference between general ministry programming and something that feels like it is aimed at a specific person. But wait, let me ask you something. Have you ever received a message that was technically addressed to no one, but that you knew with complete certainty was meant for you, where the specific words, the specific timing, the specific context made it impossible to interpret it as anything other than a communication directed straight at your situation? Because that is what Jonathan Lamb has been experiencing from inside the network his parents built, every week, since his mother died, in the form of programming that continues to play in the spaces where his exclusion was already loudest. Reports suggest that Doug Weiss has been actively involved in managing Daystar's high-profile programming and organizational activities since Joni's passing. His presence and apparent prominence during key events have exacerbated tensions, leaving Jonathan and other family members sidelined. Weiss's influence extends beyond ceremonial appearances. He gave his memorial tribute via pre-recorded video, explaining that he knew he would be too emotional to speak live. And in the weeks since, he has maintained a visible presence in the Daystar ecosystem, in programming, in messaging, in the direction of the network that Jonathan Lamb was supposed to inherit according to his father's directive. Marcus Lamb wrote, "If Joni passes or retires, then Jonathan Lamb will become the head of Daystar." That directive exists. It is not legally binding, but it exists. And the man who was supposed to execute it, the son who obtained a business degree from Oral Roberts University specifically to prepare for this role, is watching from the outside as someone else manages the institution his father built. The financial picture complicates everything further. Joni filed a quitclaim deed in March 2026, just 2 months before her death, transferring a Florida beach condo worth nearly $3 million into her own personal revocable trust. The move effectively removed Doug Weiss from the property. She removed him, deliberately, from a specific asset, while she was dying, while she was managing a private health battle that nobody outside her inner circle knew the full extent of. That legal action is now being read alongside the programming decisions, alongside the memorial seating arrangement, alongside the attorney phone call that Jonathan received instead of a family member reaching out, as part of a larger picture of a woman who, in her final weeks, was making deliberate, specific decisions about what she wanted to protect and from whom. And then she was gone, and the protection she put in place, the quitclaim deed, the succession condition, the board she reportedly prepared, is now being tested in the real world, without her there to enforce it. Eyewitnesses who attended the memorial described the atmosphere toward Jonathan as deliberately cold. His friends were separated from him. Security followed his friends out of the building when they left during the eulogy. And the programming that followed on Daystar, the messaging, the language, the themes chosen week after week, has felt to many in the community like a continuation of that coldness, extended across the airwaves, into every living room in America, where a Daystar viewer turns on their television. Jonathan Lamb has not responded publicly to the programming choices. He has not named them. He has not called them out by post or by video. He has said simply, "God is in control." His wife Susie said, "The love was always real. We forgive them." That is the response from the man the community believes is being subliminally targeted. Not escalation, not retaliation, forgiveness, faith, and the quiet determination of someone who knows that the institution his parents built will ultimately be governed not by whoever holds the microphone today, but by the board, the donors, the viewers, and the God that Daystar was built to serve. Trinity Foundation President Pete Evans has said Daystar needs to clean up its programming schedule and believes Jonathan Lamb would be an ideal successor. Outside voices, independent observers with no personal stake, are pointing toward the same conclusion that Marcus Lamb's directive pointed toward years ago. Jonathan is ready. Jonathan is trained. Jonathan is the son of the people who built this. And Jonathan has responded to every attempt to sideline him, including the subliminal ones from the airwaves, with exactly the kind of grace that a Christian television network is supposed to model. The board has not announced a successor. Daystar continues. The programming continues. And somewhere in the spaces between the worship songs and the faith teachings and the carefully worded segments about releasing the past and moving forward, Jonathan Lamb is watching and waiting and trusting that what his father wrote and what his mother reportedly said in her final weeks will ultimately be honored. Joni Lamb, July 19, 1960, May 7, 2026. She built it, and she told them who should lead it. The rest is in the hands of a board, and the God they all claim to serve. Thank you for watching.